Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. So I did a video a while back on how to make ghee. And I was rewatching that video and I realized something. That for the beginner prepper or the person who's trying to begin to save a little bit of money as well to prep, to make ghee watching my video may be pretty intimidating because I believe in that video I think I used like 16 or 17 pounds of butter. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to try to recreate that video, but on a micro level, and only make 1 pint of ghee in less than 15 minutes. So I'm going to bring you along for this ride if you wish to come along. And I want to show you how easy it is to make a pint of ghee in 10 to 15 minutes. And even if you never make a big batch like I made, I think it was like 16 or 17 pints, you'll at least know how to save $10 to $12 by doing it yourself. This pound of butter I bought a few months back for like $3 a pound. Actually a little less than $3 a pound. And I can make just shy of 1 pint of ghee because there's going to be a little bit of loss due to the evaporation of the water in it and the loss of the solids that's going to settle to the bottom. So let's go ahead and make a pint of ghee, which is normally anywhere between $10 to $15 for $3 in a few minutes of your time. I'm using non-salted butter. The last batch that I made was salted butter. I think that using non-salted butter you'll have less of a loss of product and that you won't have as many solids. So I'm going to use unsalted butter this time, and I'm sure it's going to come out just as good as the batch that I made with salted butter. So the first thing we want to do is, of course, we want to make sure that our butter is melted. So what I've done is I've put this pan on the smallest burner in my range, and I'm going to go ahead and melt the butter nice and slow. And then when all this butter is melted, we'll come back so that I can show you what it looks like melted and tell you what the next step is going to be after the butter is melted. See, all the butter has melted. Now this took me about 5 minutes because the butter that I had in here came right out of the freezer. Now if you plan ahead and take your butter out of the freezer and just leave it in the counter overnight, then it will melt a lot quicker, obviously. All right, so we're about 5 minutes in, but I would say that it would only take about 2 minutes for the butter to melt and come to this level here if you left it at room temperature. So right now what I have this on is I have this on medium heat. And this is something that you do not want to step away from. You need to stay here and make sure that this doesn't overflow for any reason. Make sure that you monitor the heat. And what we're doing is we're wanting it to start boiling. And you see that once it starts doing that, now I'm going to turn my heat down to just about low. So right now I've got it on number 2. So I've got it at about between 1/3 and 1/4 of as high as it'll go. So what we're going to do now is we're going to wait until this simmers a little bit, and then you'll see that the butter will start to clarify, and you'll see that the foam on top will start to burn off and fall to the bottom. A lot of that foam is solids in the butter, and it's going to burn off and go to the bottom. I'm going to bring you guys back when this foam has kind of like parted way and the butter is starting to clarify a little bit. It should only take about 5-7 minutes for that to happen. As you can see, most of the steam is almost dying off. Earlier you could see a lot of steam coming out of it. Now once all of the steam is gone, it doesn't steam anymore, it means that the water from the butter has been evaporated. Now once that happens, that's when the solids will start to burn off. So once all your steam is gone and it's not steaming anymore, you'll notice that the butter will then start to clarify because it's going to burn off the solids. Now when it gets to this point that most of the foam has gone away, whenever you stir it, you want to make sure that you don't scrape the bottom, that you just keep it on top. Because what will happen is if you stir it and you scrape the bottom, you're going to bring up all those solids again, and they're going to have to settle down again. So if you're going to stir it, just make sure you stay on top. And look at that, we're almost done, ladies and gentlemen. I can see that most of the solids are already starting to burn off and go to the bottom, and we should be done here in maybe another 2 to 4 minutes, I would say. Now, depending on how nutty of a flavor you want your ghee to have, will depend on how long you cook it after the solids have burned off. Right here, I can tell you that the solids are just about completely burned off. You can see it. See that? Well, I have my spoon still has solids stuck to it. But if you look at it, you can see that there's still just a tiny bit of solids in there. So they're almost all the way burned off. But you can actually continue to cook your ghee until it turns kind of like a brown color. And the more that you cook it, the more of a nutty flavor that it will have. Now, one of my favorite things about ghee is that it's got that nutty flavor. And if I were to describe the taste to you, it tastes like butter, but exemplified. But, you know, like butter times 2, really. And as you can see now, I can tell right now that all my solids are burned off to the bottom. So this is just about the point where I'm going to stop. I'm going to let it burn off for about another minute or so, and then I'm going to get my jar ready. Now, one thing you want to remember about your jar, you have to make sure that the inside of your jar is completely dry, because what you're going to do is you're going to introduce this really hot liquid into that jar, and if there's water in there, you're going to get a splash, and you definitely don't want to do that. So this butter is now clarified, and it is now ghee. See how easy that was, ladies and gentlemen? So let me go ahead and sign off for now, and I'm going to bring you back, and I'm going to show you what I do to put the butter in the jar. Now what I like to do is I like to have a plate under my jar in case I make a little bit of a mess, but really you shouldn't. Now if you were going to be storing ghee for long term, you would want to use like a cheesecloth in order to catch any small particulates of solids that may get through. But I'm not doing that with this. I'm going to keep this ghee to use for every day, right? Ghee is great to use for if you're frying a steak, for your eggs, anything that you want to fry. Ghee has a very high flash point, which means that it won't burn easy because all of the solids have already burned off. So it has a very high flash point. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I already have my ghee over here. I'm going to pour it nice and slowly into my jar. And I really don't care about the little bit of foam that's in here, because like I said, I'm going to use this for my everyday use. I'm not putting it away for long term. I'm just going to pour it nice and steady in there, being very careful. And after we're done, I'll show you the solids that were stuck in the bottom of the jar. I'm sorry, that were stuck in the bottom of the pan. But first I want to get this into my jar. And as you can see, almost none of the solids are pouring in there. I think I've seen a couple of little pieces of solids go in there, but that's just fine. However, like I said, if you were going to be putting this away for long-term storage, you would put a piece of cheesecloth on top and pour it through there, and then you wouldn't end up with any of the foam or anything. And if you wanted to, you can just go ahead and scrape the foam off the top right here. Very, very easy, and put into your pan. There you go. Look at that. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That right there is ghee. And it took us less than 15 minutes to make it. So now that you see how easy it is to actually make this, why don't you try making one jar like I did right here at home? And that will give you the confidence to try to tackle on a bigger project where you process several pounds of ghee so that you can put away for long-term storage. Because it really is nice when you run into those butter sales where you get them for a really good price, that you can learn how to take that butter and change it into something that's not only that it's tasty, because ghee is extremely tasty, but that will last you a very long time on the shelf. Now this ghee right here, I won't even put in my refrigerator. I'm just going to cover this up and I'm going to leave it on my counter, and that's going to be for my everyday use. Now for those of you that are going to ask, how long does ghee last on your shelf? Well, ghee was an invention of India, all right, a long time ago. I want to say that probably more than 1,000 years ago. In India, where the climate is hot, they needed a way to figure out how to keep oils from going rancid very quickly. And they figured out that if you use this method to make ghee with butter, that you would be left with nothing but a pure fat. And not only a pure fat, but a pure fat that tastes very good, but that it will stay on the shelf for a very long time. It's been said that ghee will outlive you as far as how long it will last. That's not something that I want to find out anytime soon, but I can tell you that I have ghee that I processed 5, 6, maybe 7 years ago now, and it's still perfectly fine. So let me go ahead and get a lid for this, and then I will show you the solids that are at the bottom of the pan so that you can see how little bit was lost using this method. And as you can see, we made just about an entire pint out of that 1 pound of butter. There is very little shrinkage, which is what is called the loss to water and solids. Now this, ladies and gentlemen, is what was left behind. As you can see down there, those are all your solids. And like I said, the more nuttier that you want your ghee to taste, the more you would cook it and the more brown that would look down there. Now, you can use this and leave in the comments. I've heard a lot of people say in the comments what they use this for. But I think what I'm going to use this ghee for is I'm going to put a little bit of minced garlic in here. And I'm going to spread it over some steak that we're having for dinner tonight. So that's what this little bit of solids is going to go to tonight. And here is our finished product. Isn't that pretty? All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, I hope you got something out of this video, especially for those of you that have never tried making ghee before. It's as easy as that. So I would hope that some of you are encouraged to try to make at least 1 pint of your own so that you can taste it and see what an awesome product this is. Not only is it an awesome product, but it is an awesome way, a great way to preserve a very good tasting fat for long term. So having said that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining in today. Thank you to all of my VIPs, which are those of you that are still here till the end of the video. Thank you so much for all of your support, ladies and gentlemen. I truly do appreciate it. Having said that, remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. This is Alaska Prepper, and I'm out.